very seldom he would get out in there and swim. Most of the time he would lay by and listen to the radio and drink a Shasta drink.
Hello, my dear friends, those whose hearts still beat in rhythm with the music of Elvis Presley. And today, I want to invite you to sit down, like old friends, and to share a long, emotional story about the king of rock and roll. Have you ever wondered what secrets lie hidden in the corners of Graceland, untouched by the spotlight's glow? Untold stories, locked away mementos, as if Elvis himself is still whispering to us through time. Today, we'll unlock the door to Graceland's attic, and I promise, what we find will stir your hearts, perhaps even bring tears to your eyes. Are you ready? Let's embark on this journey together. Picture this. Dear friends, a sweltering summer day in 1977, the news of Elvis Presley's passing swept across the world like a tsunami, shattering the hearts of millions. I know many of us, fans who've lived through the years, still remember that moment vividly. Maybe you were at home tuning the radio to Love Me Tender or Can't Help Falling in Love, letting silent tears fall. Maybe you held a newspaper, reading the heartbreaking words that the king of rock and roll was gone forever. I recall a fan once wrote that they cried for days, feeling as if they'd lost a family member. Have you ever felt that way? But what really happened in Elvis's final days? And why? Nearly 50 years later, do we still yearn to know more about him? Has Elvis truly left us? Or does he linger somewhere, in memories, tapes, and the stories of those who stood by his side? Today, I want to tell you about Nancy Rooks, a humble woman far from the stage lights, yet a silent witness to Elvis's final years. We'll also step into Graceland's attic, sealed since 1977, to uncover treasures that stun the world in 2025. But more than that, we'll reflect on Elvis's life, not just as a legend, but as a man with joys, sorrows, and unfulfilled dreams. Are you curious? Join me in this exploration, for this story will take us through a roller coaster of emotions, from deep sadness to fragile hope, from simple moments to mysteries that keep us pondering. First, let's talk about Nancy Rooks. She wasn't a star, not a celebrity, but a housekeeper at Graceland starting in 1967, hired by chance through an agency to fill in for a sick employee. But Vernon Presley, Elvis's father, saw something special in her diligence, her calm demeanor, and asked her to stay. What began as a temporary job turned into a decade-long journey, placing Nancy at the heart of Elvis's private life. She became a cook, preparing the southern dishes he loved: peanut butter and banana sandwiches, cornbread, fried pickles, and sometimes a steaming plate of meatloaf. Can you imagine it? A woman working from 5 p.m. until midnight, just to serve a man who lived by his own unique rhythm, unlike anyone else. Elvis didn't follow an ordinary schedule. He stayed up late, ate late, and sometimes wanted nothing more than a simple glass of water or a slice of peach pie. But Nancy did more than cook. She saw the real Elvis, not the dazzling king of rock and roll in sequined jumpsuits, but a man in a long robe, hair tousled, sometimes smiling, sometimes quiet, asking simple yet profound questions. I picture Elvis walking into the kitchen, barefoot or in slippers, with a gentle smile, saying, "Nancy, got any peach pie?" Those were the moments Nancy held close, not to share with the world, but to cherish a human being. Nancy was there in Graceland's peaceful moments, when Elvis sang gospel hymns with her and his grandmother, Minnie May, in the warm kitchen. Do you know that feeling? When music isn't for performance, but for soothing the soul, for connecting hearts? I remember a fan writing on a forum that Elvis's gospel songs, like "How Great Thou Art," helped them through dark days. That was the Elvis Nancy knew, a deeply emotional man, always seeking peace through melodies. She recalled that sometimes, when the house grew quiet, Elvis would sit in the kitchen, asking her to sing along, not to show off, but to feel closeness, to find healing. Those small, precious moments left a lasting mark on Nancy's heart. But what moves me most, and I believe it will touch you too, is what Nancy revealed before she passed away. She said Elvis wasn't someone who gave up, not someone lost in drugs as many assume. He was struggling, dreaming of change. Are you curious? Did Elvis truly want to leave the limelight, to live a simple life as an ordinary man, free from the crowds? Nancy shared that in the final days of summer 1977, Graceland was no longer the glittering palace it once was. She noticed a difference. Elvis seemed more tired, more withdrawn. He still laughed, still played volleyball in the early mornings, but there was something fragile, like a thread stretched too tight. On the morning of August 16th, Nancy asked, "Want something to eat, Mr. Elvis?" He shook his head, asking only for a glass of water. Can you imagine such a small, ordinary moment? Yet it was the last time she spoke to him. Elvis drank that water as if yearning for something greater, perhaps freedom, perhaps release. Nancy recalled that just days earlier, Elvis had asked her, "Do you believe a person can start over?" She replied, "Of course, if they want to." And Elvis smiled, saying, "Maybe one day I'll do that. Maybe I'll wake up and walk away from all this." Does that stir something in you? Those words, like a whisper from the depths of his heart, from a man standing on the edge of life and death. Nancy believed Elvis wasn't ready to go. He was trying, searching for answers through spiritual books, gospel songs, and dreams of a new life. She said he kept a collection of books upstairs about spirituality, health, and personal transformation. He wasn't just relying on pills, as many think. He was seeking something deeper. But just hours after that glass of water, his fiancée, Ginger Alden, found him unresponsive in the bathroom. Joe Esposito, his tour manager and close friend, attempted CPR, but the ambulance arrived too late. Graceland fell silent, and the world lost a legend. I know, hearing this, many of us may feel a pang in our hearts. I do too, but Elvis's story doesn't end there. My friends. Let's turn to another chapter, a mystery that sent shockwaves worldwide. In 2025, nearly 50 years after Elvis's death, Graceland's attic door was finally opened. Are you curious? What had been locked away in that room? Untouched since 1977. No press conference, no grand announcement. Just a small team of archivists wearing white gloves, climbing a narrow staircase and turning an old brass Presley family lock. When light flooded in, what did they see? Not a person, not sensational secrets, but a treasure trove holding Elvis's soul, a time machine taking us back to the real man. Imagine this, friends, dusty boxes labeled in Elvis's own handwriting. Tupelo, 1945, Army Days, Hollywood, Vegas. Each box a piece of his life. They found an old teddy bear, missing one eye, patched together by his mother, Gladys, with scraps of her own clothing. Does that move you? It was the toy young Elvis clutched during tough times in Tupelo, when his father, Vernon, was jailed for a financial mistake. That bear, with its faded patches, reminds us that before he was king, Elvis was just a boy needing his mother's love. They also found a Bible, given to Elvis by Gladys when he entered the Army in 1958. Its pages were filled with notes, questions, and handwritten prayers. One entry, dated August 1907, marked Psalm 23. "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." Do you think Elvis, in his final days, was seeking comfort in his faith? I believe so. That Bible wasn't just a book. It was part of his soul, where he poured his deepest thoughts. But what stunned the world, and I bet it'll give you chills, were the reel-to-reel tapes labeled Rehearsals 1976. Did you know? These weren't commercial recordings. They captured Elvis alone, experimenting with gospel, blues, and even early electronic sounds, a direction he never shared publicly. Among them was a version of Unchained Melody, just his raw, trembling voice, no instruments, no backing vocals. A music expert said, "It felt like staring death in the face through this song." Can you imagine? That voice brimming with emotion, like a confession, a farewell, recorded just months before he passed. I picture Elvis, alone in a room, singing as if he knew his time was running out. What else did they find? Unopened fan letters, from soldiers thanking Elvis for lifting their spirits, from families saying his music helped them through grief, from young musicians seeking advice. One letter, postmarked 1976, begged Elvis to stop touring and care for his health. Do you think, had he read it, things might have been different? I can't help but wonder. They also found handwritten lyrics on napkins, scrap paper, even hotel receipts. An unfinished version of Suspicious Minds showed Elvis's creative mind never stopped, even as his health faltered. And then, a leather jacket, custom made for his role in Jailhouse Rock, with a note in the pocket, "Wear this when you need to disappear." Do you feel it? These aren't just objects. They're the voice of a man craving freedom, peace, and a chance to start over. But, my dear friends, Elvis's story isn't just about artifacts. It's about unanswered mysteries. Why was the attic sealed for nearly 50 years? Did the Presley family want to hide something? Some fans believe Elvis faked his death, escaping fame to live under a new name, like Pastor Bob Joyce. I've read online comments claiming people saw Elvis at Memphis Airport right after his death, or working at a Burger King in Michigan. One person swore they saw a man resembling Elvis in a white suit and sunglasses, buying a ticket to Buenos Aires under the name John Burroughs. What do you think? Is Elvis out there, living quietly, or is this just the dream of hearts unwilling to say goodbye? I understand why people want to believe this. Elvis wasn't just a singer. He was part of their lives, our lives. A fan once wrote that when Elvis died, it felt like the world stopped. I felt that too. Reading about his final moments, the glass of water Nancy gave him, the trembling voice in Unchained Melody. But I also empathize with those who say, "Let Elvis rest. He gave us so much. Music, movies, a generous heart. Perhaps it's time we give him the peace he always sought." Let's look back a moment. Friends, Elvis Presley wasn't just the king of rock and roll. He was a cultural icon, selling over 500 million records, starring in dozens of Hollywood films, and receiving the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2018. But behind the glamour, he was human, a son who loved his mother, Gladys, a father who adored his daughter, Lisa Marie, a man yearning for peace. Nancy Rooks, in her final words, showed us an Elvis not as a broken icon, but as a man trying to rise. She said he didn't want to die, that he was quietly planning to start anew, far from Graceland. And the attic artifacts, from the teddy bear to the Unchained Melody tape, prove it. They reveal a man with dreams, pain, and a heart always searching. But I want to share another perspective. Friends, Elvis's death sparked much debate. Some believe he died from drug overuse, prescribed excessively by his personal doctor, Dr. George Nicopolis, or Doctor's Nick. Toxicology reports showed Elvis's system contained multiple potent drugs, from painkillers like Dilaudid and Percodan to sedatives like Quaaludes. Dr. Nick prescribed over 10,000 pills in Elvis's final 8 months. a chilling number. But others, like author Sally A. Hodel in Destined to Die Young, argue Elvis died from a hereditary heart condition, not addiction. She claims he was trying to survive, managing chronic pain the only way he knew. What do you think? Was Elvis a victim of his own fame, or was he battling an illness misunderstood at the time? Graceland, the home Elvis bought in 1957 at age 22, is inseparable from this story. For $125,000, not $12,500 as some mistakenly believe, he turned it into a palace, but also a sanctuary. Do you remember the stories of Scatter, the chimpanzee Elvis dressed up and took to parties, or the Jungle Room, where he spent hours reflecting, seeking peace? After his death, Graceland became a shrine, a fortress preserving his legacy, but it also became a hub of mysteries. Just 2 days after his funeral, a group tried to steal Elvis's coffin in a failed ransom plot. Vernon Presley decided to move Elvis's and Gladys's remains to Graceland's meditation garden for safety. Do you think this was the family's way of protecting not just their bodies, but their memory? In 2024, Graceland faced another challenge when a mysterious company, Nosany Investments, attempted to auction the property, claiming Riley Keough, Elvis's granddaughter, had defaulted on a loan. Riley, the Presley heir, fought in court and stopped the auction, keeping Graceland in family hands. Do you see it? Elvis's legacy isn't just his music, but his family's tireless efforts to protect his memory. It was Riley who allowed the attic to be opened in 2025, and I believe she wanted the world to see the real Elvis, not just the legend, but the man. My dear friends, we've traveled a long journey today, from quiet moments in Nancy Rooks' kitchen, where she shared Elvis's final dreams, to the meaningful artifacts in Graceland's attic. We've seen an Elvis Presley who was more than a king. He was human. Do you feel closer to him? Does your heart stir hearing about unopened letters, unheard melodies, and his unfulfilled dreams? I know mine does. I feel like I'm talking to an old friend who left an indelible mark on my life. Before we part, I have one final question. If Elvis was truly planning to start over, to leave fame behind and become an ordinary man, what stopped him? Was it his failing health, pressure from those around him, or, as Nancy said, was he simply exhausted, physically and emotionally? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your stories, your memories of Elvis, the man, the legend, the music. Maybe you visited Graceland, stood before the meditation garden, or simply listened to Always on My Mind and reminisced about old times. Tell me about it. Dear friends, Elvis Presley may have left us, but his music and spirit live on. Please like, subscribe, and share this video if you love Elvis as much as I do. Thank you for sitting here, like old friends, listening to this long story. Keep loving and remembering Elvis, the king of rock and roll, who gave us timeless melodies. I'll see you in the next video, and always keep Elvis in your heart, okay?